Hello, YouTube. So, today I want to step things up a little bit. You know, it has been my intention for however long my channel has been up to educate and to destroy the lies that have been imposed upon us for the past 2,000 years. So you need to understand, if you want to achieve enlightenment, if you want to achieve happiness, if you want to achieve fulfillment, if you want to achieve the highest standards that there is to be human, you have to understand that there is a war that has been waged and is continuously being waged against your mind and against your soul. And when somebody declares war on you, it is wise to defend yourself. So I am encouraging you with me to declare war against the one God, the teachings of the one God, Jehovah. And I'm talking about it in these terms very specifically for a very specific reason. And I want you to listen to your reactions to that. It's one thing to come on here and say, well, you know, Jesus never existed, which I believe, and that, this all came from in 350 BC or whenever it was, when the elites from a small little country in the middle of the Levant were taken captive in Babylon, and in order to get their independence back from all of the empires that had been ruling over them, they came back with this new religion, which they called, which in a book which they called the Torah, the law, and that turned into Christianity. And then another monotheist religion was spawned off of that, which is called Islam. And that this attack upon the freedom of human beings has been going on relentlessly for the past 2,000 years. And sometimes you need to do more than just take a look at things from an intellectual perspective. Now, bear in mind, this is a spiritual war. I am not saying that anybody should commit violence of any kind. That's not what I'm talking about. Talking about going to war on the spiritual plane, on the intellectual plane, on the emotional plane, on the philosophical plane, in order to gain back your freedom. One of the reasons that this has been brought to my attention is that, as you know, I spend a lot of time trying to point out the fallacy in the victim mindset that is behind the majority of conspiracy theories out there. And it gets me frustrated because the people who are attracted to my channel are, many of them, people who believe in all kinds of conspiracy theories. And there's a couple of problems with them. One is the problem that I have, that the majority of the people who are into this are uneducated. And so they're wasting their time and their energy fighting against something that doesn't exist. But more importantly than that, they have been duped into this mindset from the very mindset that is in fact seeking to destroy their mind, to kill their soul, to destroy their spirit. And that is the monotheist dualism that was introduced into the world through the teachings, the religion of Jehovah. So let's just go over who this guy is, who this Jehovah guy is, the one God. And I put on here the picture of some berserkers and some Ulfhednars, which is, berserkers means they took on the spirit of the bear. And Ulfhednar took on the spirit of the wolf in battle. And the lightning is behind him, which to me represents the god Thor, who fights for the freedom of human beings. And what is frustrating me and enraging me is to see people who are honestly trying to fight for their spiritual, mental, and emotional freedom, and they have been duped into fighting the wrong battles. You are fighting for the oppressors, not against them. And I'm not going to get into any of the specific things that, because I don't want to distract you from what you need to be looking at. First and foremost, we have to start with assumptions. So bear in mind that 2,000 years ago, what ended up happening is that this one God appeared onto the world stage and was spread forcibly all over the world. And in order to understand and accept this one God, you had to completely change all of your assumptions about yourself and your relationship to the universe. The first one is that Jehovah sends you this assumption that you are born in sin. Sin. I mean, that word didn't even exist until it was given to us. Sin, our ancestors didn't think like that. The idea, and what is sin? Think about it. Sin is, it is an essence. It's once sin, listen, I'm going to sound like a preacher right now. Once sin takes hold of you, it corrupts you on the deepest levels. It makes you completely like, if it were food, it's like food that had gone bad. It's rancid, it's stale, it's actually toxic. You have to get rid of it. And so Jehovah shows up and he says, all human beings are born in sin. And then he goes further and he says that he created you. He says that he is the sole creator of human beings. He created you in his own image. And then he goes on to say that you are sinful, that you are reprehensible. He hates you so much that he must, to be able to be in his own presence, he has to put you into eternal torment for eternity, so that he can just be comfortable. So right off the bat, you're sinful because your forebears, Adam and Eve, did the most horrendous thing that Jehovah could stand, which is that they chose to know the truth about themselves. Now, this is coming from that tradition, from the Abrahamic tradition, that Adam and Eve were born in perfection. They were created in God's image, according to Jehovah. He created them and he made them perfectly. And then he said to them, over there in that tree is a fruit which if you eat will give you all knowledge. It will make you like me, but don't eat it. And it's right over there. Which one? That one right there. There's a bunch of trees. Which one? That one right there. You see that one? Oh, that one. Yeah, that one. That one has the key to your knowledge and your divinity. And whatever you do, you can't eat it. Okay, I'm going to go hide behind that tree over there and pretend like I'm not here. And because they said, I think I'd like that. I think I'd like to know who I am, and I think I'd like to be like God. Why wouldn't you want that? And so they decided that that's what they wanted, and that was the ultimate sin. To have knowledge of yourself, to have true freedom and true power. This Jehovah demands perfection of you, and then tells you that it's impossible for you to achieve it. So he demands perfection, and then says it's impossible for you to achieve it. And because you aren't perfect, even though it's impossible for you to achieve it, I'm going to hold you responsible to my idea of perfection, and then I'm going to throw you into eternal torment. And he says there's no possible way that a human being could ever appease God. It's not possible. Then he says you can't lean on your own understanding. So don't try and figure any of this out. You're thinking to yourself, this doesn't make any sense. He's all loving, he's all kind, he's all powerful. He made me perfectly, and yet I'm so imperfect, he's going to have to throw me into eternal torment forever. And so I'm totally responsible, so I should be able to do something, but I'm not allowed. I can't do anything, and there's nothing I can do. And forget the fact that the being that is supposed to be your parent, who, what does the child love most? Their parents. Your parent hates you and is abandoning you right at birth. Right at birth, abandons you and throws you into eternal torment. From the moment that you're born. And then he comes along and he says, all right, listen. I'm going to take a piece of myself and I'm going to call it my son, and I'm going to send him down to earth, and then I am going to take all of my rage that I have for you, you stinking, disgusting children of mine that I created, and I made you perfect, but I can't stand you anyway. I'm going to take all of that rage and disgust that I have for you, and I'm going to put it on him. He hasn't done anything wrong. He's perfect. He's my son. You're not. He's my son, and I love him. And I'm going to then take all the rage I have for you, and I'm going to put it on him, and I'm going to make you watch. I'm going to nail him on a cross in front of you, and you're going to have to watch while he suffers and dies. And then maybe, if you intellectually accept that he's the good one and you're the bad one, and says, and I'm going to make him volunteer. I'm going to make him volunteer to sacrifice himself for you. And if you're able to take on that guilt, then because of him, I'll let you live. Because of him. And because I can't stand you, I'm going to take the blood that I've shed, that I've taken out of my son who's perfect, and I'm going to smear it all over you. I'm going to smear his blood all over you. And then I'm going to tell you, then I'll love you, but it's only because his blood is on there and I can't see you anymore. I am not making this up. This is what is taught in church. And this is what was taught to our ancestors 2,000 years ago. This is the assumption that you start with. When you start with this assumption and you try and live life, you will screw up. You cannot have a pleasant life if this is the assumption that you are programmed with. And everybody listening to me, if you were born and raised anywhere in the developed world, unless you were born in some tribal society somewhere in the Amazon or in New Guinea or someplace like that where they haven't been exposed to the modern world, you have been infected with this mindset of self-hatred and shame. And, I'm using the word war, and of course I mean on a spiritual, emotional, psychological war. I do not mean any type of physical violence at all. But the people who brought this the people who brought this belief to the world brought it with violence. You cannot separate violence and tyranny from the Abrahamic tradition. From the moment that it was conceived, it brought with it violence. And it's the worst kind of violence. The Romans were very violent, as is many other empires throughout history. But the Romans, they would come in, before they were Christian, of course, they would come in and they would conquer you. And most of the time, they wouldn't touch your religion. They would say, yeah, you can worship whoever the hell you want, just pay taxes to us. But the Christians came in and they said, not only do you have to, be part of whatever empire, was holding the cross in front of it, but you have to completely let go of everything that you've ever known, your connection to the earth, your connection to the gods, your connections to your ancestors, because your ancestors were evil and heathen. You have to break off all connection with them. And you end up with soulless people. You know what ends up happening every time that a society is conquered and their spirituality is taken from them? What you end up having, in the next following generations is alcoholism and drug addiction. It's the first thing that happens because those are the diseases of soul emptiness. And this war has been waged against you for 2,000 years. And you have been taught not to educate yourself. You have been taught that in order to be spiritual, you can't educate yourself. Lean not on your own understanding. I heard that in church, I can't tell you how many times. Whenever I had questions and I'd go, yeah, but this doesn't make sense. And why would God throw, 4-year-old babies into hell? And and people would say, look, the ways of God are not the ways of man. Lean not on your own understanding. Just accept it. Just believe it and accept it. That's what you're being told. And I'm bringing this to mind because I want to challenge all of you out there who believe in all of these conspiracy theories that are being thrown around, and you're forgetting about the one conspiracy that matters. And that is the one for your soul. And what you don't understand is many of you are working against what you are emotionally fighting for. Because what you are being told is that you cannot educate yourself. And, I'm talking with people online about things that they're bringing up, and I'm like, you haven't even researched it. And they'll go, yeah, I have. I've watched a bunch of videos. I said, yeah, but that's not researching. You don't know how to research the truth of anything. Because you've been told that you can't trust anybody who has an education. Because they have power in your mind. Of course, they don't. The truth is that most very educated people have zero power. Most really educated people are quite poor. But they have more knowledge than you, so they end up being put on this pedestal of the elite. And the people who want to destroy your ability to think for yourself, and the people who want to keep you captive, the people who want to poison your water and want to poison your food, and want to control your thoughts and keep you a sheep within the cog of the system so that all you do is you churn out all of your life force energy your whole life working some job for some enormous corporation or some company. And they want to be able to break all of the rules that have to do with clean air and clean water and fair wages and all of that. They want to be able to not follow any of those laws. And so in order to get the laws passed that they want, they go to you and they try to keep you uneducated so that all they have to do is come to you and say, listen, they're trying to steal your rights from you. They're trying to, And so what you do is you vote in all of the people who are working for the people who are seeking to destroy your freedom and destroy your health so that they can get you to just churn out the money for them. But they don't come out and tell you that. They get you to think, because you're trapped in this system because you don't know how to think outside of it. And because you don't know how to think outside of how you've been taught, you are angry and you are frightened and you feel disempowered. And so all it takes is somebody to come and pretend to be like you and say, yeah, those guys over there, they're stealing your energy. They're stealing your power. They're doing it to you. You go, yeah, somebody's doing it. It must be them. And the very people who are actually taking everything from you are the ones that are manipulating you into believing the majority of the stuff out there that people are fighting for is pure nonsense or non-existent. And it's because of Jehovah. It's because this God who said, I am who I am, thou shalt have no other gods before me. Jehovah says, I am that I am. That is his name. His name is ego. His name is narcissism. We've seen that. He is completely narcissistic. He says to Moses from the very beginning, he says, I am the one and only. He doesn't say that other gods don't exist. He says you can't worship them. He says you can't worship any other god. And he says that you have to follow every single one of my commandments. Because if you love me, he comes to Moses and he says, for those people I love, I reward. And you love me if you follow every single one of my commandments. Now then his commandments are extremely, extremely difficult. And then he himself later says, yeah, it's impossible to follow it. You know, later in the New Testament, it's like, well, yeah, the law is impossible. There's no way anybody can follow the law perfectly. It's impossible. So he gives you this law that's impossible to follow, but yet he demands that you perfectly follow to the letter every single one of his commandments. And the reason why is because if you do that, it means that you love him. And then he says, if you don't follow all of my commandments, then you hate me. And if you hate me, then here are all the ways I'm going to curse you. So religion of Jehovah is you must show him absolute love for him. Never does he say in the beginning of his religion, as he's talking to Moses, he doesn't say, hey, Moses, you know, I really want to help human beings have this wonderful life. I really want them to enjoy themselves and to love themselves and experience this beautiful world. He doesn't say any of that. He says, I am here. You must worship me and worship me only. You must follow every single one of my commandments because you're supposed to love me. You have to love me 100%. And if you don't love me 100%, then you hate me. And if you hate me, then I'm going to hate you. And I'm going to come after you with this, and I'm going to come after you with that, and I'm going to do this to you. This is the assumption. Our ancestors had a completely different understanding. Our ancestors had the belief that this life that you lived was a wonderful adventure, and you were to conquer your life. You were to seek ways to bring pride to yourself. You were to find ways to overcome and conquer your challenges so that you could say, I am so-and-so the great. I am so-and-so the magnificent. And that was looked upon with pride. It was assumed that all of nature worked to help you achieve your highest destiny. According to Tacitus, the Roman historian who came into northern Europe, where my ancestors came from, when he got in there, bear in mind that northern Europe, north of the Rhine at the time of the Roman Empire, north of the Rhine was the Amazon. It was an absolute jungle. The forest was so thick in that whole region that they called Germania. The forest was so thick that the Romans couldn't bring their military machine into it. That's why they couldn't conquer past the Rhine, because it was just this jungle. It was a swampy jungle filled with barbarians. And these barbarians were so primitive that, according to the Romans, they talked about them the same way that we talk about the uncontacted tribes in New Guinea or in the Amazon. And they came in and they said, these people, these strange looking, because bear in mind that, blonde-haired, blue-eyed people hadn't made their big impact on Europe at that point. Pretty much south of France, there was a totally different racial makeup. So they were seeing these like tall, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, long-haired, bearded barbarians. They had these strange ways. And their strange ways was that they didn't worship the gods in human form. One of the first things he says is that they don't have temples and they don't have idols. That they worship the gods in nature, that they see the gods in a lake or a stream or a mountain or the trees or the sky or the earth. Meaning they were calling them animists, what we would call shamans. That's how they saw them. These are your ancestors, and they believed that they were one of many races of entities that lived in the 9 worlds. There were giants, there were dwarves, there were elves, there were humans, there were trolls, there were Valkyries, there were just all these different earth spirits and sky spirits, and they lived in this really dynamic universe, and humans were only one race among many, and they saw themselves in this community. And what is the first thing that Jehovah does when he brings his beliefs into a place like that? He destroys and declares war against all of the other spiritual entities in that place. I want to share a story with you. Now, bear in mind, what I'm telling you is I'm not just attacking religious people. I am telling you that if you are born in the West, this is how you have been taught to think. That whether or not you believe that you are Christian or religious, you have been programmed with this inside of you, and you have been programmed to hate spirituality, to hate Mother Earth. You may say, no, I love Mother Earth. Maybe you consciously do. But you are being taught all the time to hate the earth, and to hate all of the spiritual beings that live in this universe. You are taught to fear nature. Whether you realize it or not, you have been programmed this way. And one of the ways that you know that, even if you choose not to be religious, is that you don't know how to find knowledge and be able to tell the difference between the true and the false. And the reason why is because that is how you are controlled. All you need to do to control people is keep them uneducated, keep them confused, and keep them constantly stimulated by fear. Because then all you have to do is just point them, you tell them you're supposed to be fearful and angry of that person, of those people, of that. And you are taught that you are programmed so that if somebody repeats the same thing over and over and over and over again, it becomes the truth. So even if somebody is telling you something you know is false, if they tell it to you enough times, you eventually choose to believe it. And this is what's happening with the majority of you watching me. The majority of you who are attracted to my channel, you're attracted to the message of my channel, but you want to fight with me over the stuff that you have no education or ability to know how to understand what you're looking at. Because all that you are doing is knee-jerk responding to your need to rebel against authority, which is a good thing, except you're rebelling against the wrong things. You're rebelling against ghosts. The true people who are holding all of the power over you are the people who are manipulating you into believing certain things. And you can't tell the difference. You don't have the tools to tell the difference between the true and the false. And it's frustrating for me because, on the one hand, I want to help all the people that are coming to my channel and want to learn. And yet so much of them are coming with such garbage in their head. The very thing that brings them to my channel is part of what makes it challenging for them to hear a lot of the things I have to say. So I am wanting to attack right now. I'm just going full out. I'm declaring war against the influences and the assumptions that are keeping you trapped and keeping you ignorant. Okay? So, I want to go back to the assumption. The assumption that our ancestors had was that we were part of a community. That we were, in fact, the divine mind on earth. The Germanic word for human being is man. And it meant both male and female. Man means mind. Means divine mind. Means the human beings brought with them the mind of the gods. And that we were part of a community. There were gods, there were celestial gods, there were earthly gods, there were spirits, there were ancestors, there were giants, there were all kinds of different beings that we lived with, dwarves and elves. They all lived in different dimensions that intersected our own. And Jehovah cannot stand community. He cannot stand diversity. The person who invented racism was Jehova. The person who invented poverty was Jehova. The person who invented persecution, who invented exclusionism of any kind, is Jehova. So I find it ironic that a lot of people who want to leave monotheism behind end up taking the strongest tenets of monotheism and transferring it over to polytheism. And so they become exclusionists and racists, bigots, and they fight against education. This is a Jehovah trait. You're bringing, this is the great thing about Jehovah. I mean, not the great thing, but one of the most powerful things about Jehovah is that he's very sneaky. And that he'll shape shift in order to, as long as you hold on to the unconscious assumption that you're a victim, that you are less than, as long as you hold on to that, he'll switch into whatever role he needs to in order to keep you there. Even when you think that you're rebelling against him. I'll give you a really perfect example. Satanism. People who are Satanists are actually unconscious monotheists. They are unconscious worshipers of Jehovah, because you can't believe in Lucifer unless you first believe in Jehovah. So if you want to fight against the devil, the easiest way to fight against the devil is just get rid of Jehovah altogether. Then you had no need for a devil. Our ancestors didn't have a need for a devil because it didn't exist. There's negativity in this world. There's negativity in the spiritual realm. And as long as you are living in a state of balance, then that becomes like the yin and the yang, the positive and the negative, that keeps this whole thing moving forward. Okay? All right, I'm starting to babble now. I don't know if there's any questions. I'm happy to take them. This is a question and answer. I'm not as interested in your opinions as your questions, but I'm in full-on war mode, so I will look at whatever you have to say. Bear in mind that I'm interested in looking at the motive behind your question. I want to help you find out what it is you really want to know. You may not know, and I may take on the role of deciding what I think that you're really trying to say. If you say something stupid, I'm going to reveal to you the stupidity of your thinking. And you can take that personally if you want, or you can learn from it. I also might make a mistake, so don't take it too personally, because I'm just a human being just like you. All right. Golden Hands Art. Who is we? Then I can understand. I don't even know what that question means. What do you mean, who is we? In what context are we talking about? What did I say? You have to give me context. I've been talking for, how long have I been talking now? Like a half hour or 45 minutes or something? Yeah, I've been talking for a half an hour, so I have no idea what you're referring to. You have to be specific. So if you have a question, do me a favor, write the word question, and then put some time and effort in giving context to your question so I know what the hell you're talking about. Olaf Wolfstam, question. How do I resist the desire to convert to Christianity again? Good question. You go onto my channel, you go onto courses.thunderwizard.com, and you look for, let me take this off so I can type. Then you go look for my books, and you look for the book, Odin Says Jesus Was a Coward. You go and buy that book, because in that book I show you historically, not just my thoughts or my opinions, I show you historically where monotheism came from, where Abrahamic monotheism came from and why it is completely fabricated. When you see what's behind it and why it was created and how it actually is just a completely fabricated fiction, and why and how it was used to control and dominate, you won't want to have anything to do with Christianity anymore. So acknowledge that. You've been programmed. You've been programmed to be fearful and to hate yourself. So watch my channel. Binge watch my videos. Go on my channel and watch the videos about Christianity and about Jesus. Find out why Jesus never existed. That it's impossible for the man Jesus of Nazareth to historically have ever existed. You're talking to somebody who claimed to have seen Jesus twice in visions. Okay, so I'm not just, I was a full-blown born-again Christian. I used to preach on the street. I wanted to be an evangelist. And I saw Jesus twice. And I'm here to tell you he never existed. Completely fictional. I've been dealing with this for a few weeks. People have been praying for me, and I feel like I've been battling for my mind. You are battling for your mind. Now, I don't know what their prayers are about. I don't know who these people are. If you know that they're praying for you, they're probably family members. So really what you're battling with is the desire to be loved and accepted by your family. And you're mistaking that for wanting to accept Jesus again. What's really going on is that you have to decide what's important, the love of your family or having the truth within your own soul about, who you are. Going back to Jesus out of guilt is hatred turned inward. If you feel guilty, it means that you're rageful at those who are trying to control you, but you feel bad because you don't want to harm your family. And so you turn that rage inward, and that turns into guilt. So that's, anyway, that's my suggestion is to watch the hell out of my channel and to get that book, Odin Says Jesus Was a Coward, and read it. Anyway. Nashapaya, you say Gnosticism. Is that a question? Is that a statement? I have a whole video on Gnosticism. Gnosticism is the precursor to fundamentalist Christianity and Catholicism. And Gnosticism is also extremely destructive. Gnosticism starts with the fundamental assumption that the world has been made flawed and that there is a good God and a bad God. And we are lorded over by the demiurge, which is the evil God. And so we have to hate this world and hate ourselves and get to the true God above it. It creates a schism. It creates denial. It is not a healthy religion. And if you continue logically with Gnosticism, the only place you're going to end up in is fundamentalist Christianity. So I know you think, if you're saying Gnosticism is good, maybe you're saying Gnosticism is bad. Again, it drives me crazy. People just don't bother explaining what they mean. So I don't know what you mean by that. I'm assuming that you're saying Gnosticism is good. It's not. It's just a way to pacify a really destructive, horrific, psychopathic belief. Let me just, again, Jehovah's a psychopath. He's not just a sociopath, he's a psychopath. Imagine if you had a living person, an actual human being who had children. And this psychopath said, you guys can't leave the house because everybody out there is the world and they're evil. You can't leave the house, you have to stay in the house. And among, let's say there's 5 kids. Among them, he's got a favorite whom he takes in front of the rest of the kids and he says, see, Johnny over here, Johnny's perfect. Johnny does everything that I say. He is my true son. You are evil, wrong, evil little children, and you're not my children anymore, even though I created you, you're horrible. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to punish you forever. I'm going to put you in the basement and I'm going to lock you in there and I'm going to torment you forever because you didn't do things perfectly. And by the way, don't even try because you won't be able to get it perfect. And then he says, all right, hang on. I've changed my mind. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to ritually slaughter Johnny over here who's perfect. And even though he hasn't done anything, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to slaughter him. And I'm going to take his blood and I'm going to pour it all over you. And that's the only way I'm ever going to be able to acknowledge you. If there was a human being that acted like that, we would lock them up as a psychopathic, destructive, horrific murderer. And this is who you're worshiping. Olaf Gustafsson, you want to worship that? That's who you're worshiping if you go back to Christianity. Gnosticism is no different than that. It's just you can't tolerate the horrificness of it, so you spiritualize it and you make it ethereal. It's all intellectual. But Gnosticism is based on the same victim mentality. Anything having to do with a Jesus and anything having to do with a Jehovah. There's no way that you're going to be able to take that belief and turn it into something positive. You can try all you want, and many people do, but they do it out of guilt and fear. They pick the things that they want out of the New Testament that they like, and they forget about the rest. But the whole point of Jesus was to come and save you stupid idiots from sin and from destruction. And you can talk about love all you want, but saying, I love you because you're just so idiot and you're just so worthless and I'm just, I'll sacrifice myself for you, you stupid, fucked up human beings. There's no way that Jesus doesn't demean you and look down on you. It's not possible. Goat Scriptures. Question. What can you tell us of the old ones or Lovecraftian deities? Lovecraft is, that's as I understand it, that is fiction. So I can't tell you anything about fiction. I haven't read the Lovecraft. It sounds interesting and fun and entertaining, but I'm not interested in that. So I don't have anything to say about the old ones in terms of that fiction. If you want to learn about the old ones, I can talk to you about the Aesir and the Vanir. I can talk to you about the gods of prehistory. That's what my entire channel is about. The Lovecraftian deities outside of the universe that exist in the void. I notice a resurgence in anti-cosmic faith. So I don't know anything about that, so I can't really talk about it. It sounds like fun and interesting, but I don't take it seriously. Imashta Lao, that's not a question. Yeah, you're talking to each other. Goat Scriptures question. I don't think the old ones are evil or want to destroy all exist. They just want to destroy the enslaving tetragrammaton. That's all. Look, let me make myself clear. I do not subscribe to anything having to do with Western magic, because Western magic, and you're talking about things that have to do with Western magic. Western magic was created after Christianity. And it's a hodgepodge of Abrahamic stuff, and it's not based on any traditional pre-Christian religion. Same thing with Wicca. Wicca is a totally made-up thing. There might be some good things in both of those, but I make it really clear, especially in my books, I make it really clear that I teach having to do with beliefs that have an unbroken connection into prehistory. I use that word specifically because prehistory means before Christianity. Anything that has arisen since then, I don't acknowledge because it's going to be infused with that. One of the things that Christianity brought is this feeling that the universe is arbitrary. That's the logical conclusion. If you use your brain and you start with the belief that the Bible is true, and you use your brain to understand it, you will eventually get to, what's the name of that sect of Christianity? where everything is predetermined, and so that you don't have any choice in the matter, that everything is predetermined, and God will save some people and burn some other people, and that there's nothing you can do. God must choose you and save you. That is the logical conclusion, and it's a belief that God is just totally arbitrary, that only just does whatever he does because he wants to, and he doesn't even think about any value or any worth, that nothing has any value. It's very nihilistic. It's a nihilistic religion. It means that Jehovah's a nihilist. He doesn't believe in anything. He is a narcissist, and he's just interested in what fuels his insecure narcissistic ego. And so when you have that as your assumption, and you try and create a non-Christian religion out of that assumption, you end up creating Western magic or Satanism. And these are just ways of trying to handle it. I mean, chaos magic is a perfect example. Chaos magic says that you can create these symbols, these sigils, and that the sigils themselves have no value to them except you pour your intention into them. But you can take the same symbol, and if one person pours one intention into it and another person pours another intention into that same symbol, they won't have any meaning except for you, so you have to charge it. It means that the universe is arbitrary. And this is one of the problems I have with modern rune teachers, that they have this very fatalistic, arbitrary view of the runes. They think the runes are chaos magic, which means that they don't believe in inherent power within the universe. Our ancestors believed in the inherent power of sound, of speech, of intent. Our ancestors believed that we ourselves are of the gods, that we are Ma, that we are the divine mind on earth. That's what I mean. You have to start from that. So all the stuff that you're mentioning, I don't know a hell of a lot about, but the stuff I do know is that I see that. This hodgepodge of Abrahamic stuff thrown together, and this belief that everything is arbitrary. And, that's kind of what Satanism is. It's like, well, I'm just going to forget about God, but I'm going to focus on my own energy, and I'll just sort of forget about the God I'm pretending I don't believe in, but I really do. And, that's why you have so many Satanists that convert and become Christians. Because on an unconscious level, they're still Christian. So all this stuff about the old ones that live in the void and don't want to hurt people, and I don't know what the hell that means. That's not coming from any traditional thing. I'm not trying to criticize it. I'm just being straight honest with you about that. It's not coming from anything that has a pre-Christian origin. And the assumption is that left to ourselves, our ancestors knew what they were doing. Our ancestors were deities that came down and brought with them the knowledge of their pre-human existence, and they left it with verbal and oral stories and histories, and which became mythology. And the mythology of Jesus, which isn't true mythology, but the fiction of Abrahamic religion and Jehovah and Moses and Joshua and Jesus, is an attempt to, and a very effective attempt because it worked, in every Indo-European belief system except for the Vedic. In every Indo-European belief system except for the Vedic, the Abrahamic lie came in, and it came as war to destroy your belief, your understanding, your history, your connection, and told you that you had no value. Our ancestors believed the opposite. Let's see what else. Okay, I'm looking for the questions. I know everybody has an opinion, but I'm looking for the questions. Rebecca Dawn, is he saying Jesus was bad? I'm saying Jesus never existed. And that the fictional account of him is designed to destroy you. I mean, think about it. For God, I mean, look at the people talk, Christians will talk about the first half of this verse. For God so loved the world. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. That he gave means he ritually murdered. For God so loved the world that he ritually murdered his only begotten son, that whosoever should believe in him would have eternal life and not perish. But then people don't talk about what it says later in that book, which says, and those who don't believe are condemned already. There's no love in any of that. That is a psychopathic murderer manipulating you in guilt to control you. It is a religion of guilt, control, and destruction of your divine self. It is a new religion, by the way. It is a religion that was introduced to the world, I think it was 300 BC or something like that. That was when the Jewish elite came back from Babylonian captivity with this new monotheist religion. We know from archaeological evidence that the Jewish people were polytheists right up until the Babylonian captivity. And then right after that, you see no archaeological record. We know that because they've dug up houses from the period up to and just before the Babylonian captivity, and in the Jewish homes were altars to the Sky Father and the Earth Mother and all the different gods. The Canaanites, who according to Abrahamic tradition says were wiped out and killed, were, for no other reason that they were, Canaanites, that the Canaanites were killed and destroyed by the children of Israel. But the Jewish people were never taken captive in Egypt. Moses never existed. That whole Exodus never happened. We know this for a fact. Archaeologically, historically, it never happened. The story of Moses leading the children out of Israel and then going and campaigning and destroying the indigenous Canaanites. And they don't hide that. They're like, oh yeah, those are the Canaanites. They've been living there forever, and we're going to go kick them out of that land because God has given it to us. I mean, they're saying, go and attack indigenous people and take their land away from them and kill them for no other reason than they're where we want to be. That whole story is an allegory of self-destruction of the Canaanite Hebrews who wants to destroy their own history of themselves. That's the religion you're worshiping. Rogue 7.1 says, will the 30 saws and whole breath meditation help to purify us from the unhealthy Abrahamic programming? Yes. Trent Witt, question, what do you feel is the most important first step to take when breaking free from Christianity? Reading my book, Odin Says Jesus Was a Coward. Understanding where it came from. If you have knowledge, you have power. But if you don't, and if it's just a fight against who's right and, this God against that God, once you realize that Jehovah is a completely made-up God, and he was made up by people seeking to hold on to political power, then you'll understand why it took hold. I mean, on the one hand, I understand why they did it, because the Hebrew people had been conquered and enslaved for hundreds and hundreds of years by everybody surrounding them. So they finally got tired of it, and they wanted to have their own country and their own nation, and they did that through nationalism. That's what Zionism is. That's why, to this day, I mean, you can't get rid of, people have been trying for years to get rid of, I'm trying to say this without sounding racist, but, the attacks against Jewish people have been unsuccessful because of Zionism. And that's because, the religion of Judaism came out of a period where there was a real threat that the country and the culture of the Canaanite people was under, that they were on the verge of just being assimilated into everybody around them. So it's an understandable overreaction, but they used religion to do that. In the beginning, Jehovah doesn't say that there aren't other gods. He just is forbidding the Jewish people from worshiping any of the other gods, because if you worship the other gods, then there's a good chance you might become Phoenician, or you might become, whatever, Egyptian or Babylonian, and then the Jewish people lose their identity. So it's an understandable overreaction, but it was so successful that even to this day, they're very nationalistic, very xenophobic. We're talking hardcore. And this is true with all hardcore religions. So the most important step to take is to understand where Abrahamic monotheism came from, why it was brought, why it was invented, why it's a lie. The other thing about Abrahamic monotheism is it is the first religion in history, the first religion in the history of human beings that is to be taken as literal historic truth. No other religion is meant to be taken as literal historic truth. The myths about Thor and the myths about Odin, they are not meant to be like written down as, this was literal truth. The myths about Dionysus and Zeus and Aphrodite, the myths of Indra and whomever, they were never meant to be looked at as historical truth. But the account of Moses and the children of Israel was a new history that was given to the Jewish people so that they could have something to rally around to keep their nationality together. And then that was used by the elites to control them. I'm absolutely certain, we don't have any written record of it, but I'm absolutely certain that when those people came back, when the elites came back from the Babylonian captivity and they regained power, that there was a Holocaust. And that because the law is very clear. Anybody who worships anybody other than Jehovah is to be stoned to death. So there's no doubt in my mind there was mass stonings of people who didn't want to give up belief in the old Canaanite gods. Bear in mind that that's their ancestral religion. The Canaanite polytheist religion is the ancestral religion of the Jewish people. That's their history. And they were destroying their own history. And there's no doubt in my mind that there was a lot of killing that was done. I don't have any proof for this, but how else would that have been the case? This is the religion that is fighting and has been successfully fighting to destroy your belief in yourself. Polytheism is about self-empowerment. And it is about union with yourself and the divine. It is about seeing yourself as among the community of the divine. Seeing yourself as one of the gods. Polytheism is about that. It always has been. Our ancestors believed that they were here just visiting. My African teacher, my Yoruba teacher, you see that when I put it on, and you see me playing drums with him all the time. I'm putting it on the channel. At the end when I have the big long marathons, when I'm ready to end it, I'll throw up that video of me and him playing. And you ask him about, well, what happens, when a child is just born and then dies. He just says, oh, that was just a soul that just came and wanted to look around. And he would say to like, if there was a little kid, we'd be sitting there, and if a little, like say 2 or 3 or 4 year old kid would walk up, he would say, yes, sir. He would treat them like they were elders. And he would say, no, that's your elder right there. This is an elder who just came from the sky. Treat them with respect. This is the polytheist understanding. This is our ancestral understanding of human beings. It's the exact opposite of what Jehovah wants to tell you. We have to fight to regain control of ourselves. Shame is the one thing that you must fight against. Everything in the world that we can point to, global warming, slavery, disease, violence, war, whatever it is you want to talk about, it starts with shame. Shame is the root cause of all of it. Let's see what else. Calvinism, yeah. Olaf Wolf's, that was the name of the belief where everything is fated and God has decided the fates of everybody and it's all arbitrary and there's nothing you can do about it. It's called Calvinism. And it is the logical conclusion. If you have a mind and a brain and you choose to believe the Abrahamic Christian doctrine, if you continue to read it and ingest it and use your logic, your logical conclusion will be Calvinism, which says that God just does whatever the hell he wants and he has no reason for it and you can't figure it out and there's nothing you can do. He'll either accept you or he'll destroy you and you have no power over any of it. It's just all arbitrary. That is the end result. That's what Catholicism brought. Catholicism brought this hopeless feeling of arbitrariness. That's why the Middle Ages were so horrible. And that's why people in the Middle Ages, you know, when you look at the art from the Middle Ages, everybody's, you know, that's the end result. It's like, yeah, there's your religion right there. Hopelessness. That's the literal interpretation of the Bible. And the reason why they were so sad is because the Middle Ages is right after Europe converted to Christianity, and they were like, they had nothing. The only thing you had was these people with power. You had the dukes and the kings and guys in castles, and then you had everybody else. Because of Christianity. Olaf Wolfstan. So you've got this name, Olaf Wolfstan. I don't know if that is a heathen name you've given yourself or if that is actually your name. Maybe you can tell me. How do I go about to worship the gods of my ancestors without serving them like I'm serving Jehovah? Because when you worship the gods of your ancestors, you are worshiping the powers within yourself. Odin is your awakening. Thor is your mind. Thor is a god of the mind. Thor is your mind and your power and your self-respect. Freya is your love of the earth and love of your fellow men. Frigga is your unconditional love for yourself and for others. When you worship them, you empower yourself with those things within you. The gods are you. The gods are emanations of you. All of the gods exist within you. Again, my African teacher, there's a song that we played called Iwuro Iba, which was later called rumba. When you hear like rumba music, it came from a very ancient chant and ritual that means welcome to all 10,000 deities. And you can find them and he'll be able to tell you where all the deities are in your body. They're you. That's the difference. Jehovah's outside of you. You're nothing. He's everything. You are everything and the gods are aspects of you. That's how. You have to understand. Let's see. What else? How do I go about worshiping the gods of my ancestors without serving them like I'm serving Jehovah? Like without all the guilt and fear. I realize I have treated them blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I don't see a question there either. So, Mariah Edmondson, there is something that you said that YouTube said was not appropriate, and so they hid it. You're yelling at all of us in all caps. So that tells you something. I mean, I'm pretty intense right now, so I guess you could say everything, take everything I'm saying and put it in all caps. But let's see. Let's see what it is. I think Mariah is a Christian. I don't know, but let's see what she has to say. Yeah, so Mariah, here's the thing. If you come onto my channel and you have anything other than an honest question, I'm just telling you now, unless you have an honest question for me, an honest question for me is there's knowledge you think I have that you want. And so you're going to ask me to share that knowledge with you. If you do anything else, you are setting yourself up to be destroyed intellectually. I'm going to do that to you right now. I'm just giving you fair warning. So I'm now going to show everybody what your all caps yelling is. To those who believe, you've mistyped believe. Believe is not B-E-A-L-E-I-E-V-E. So you've missed. So just right off the bat, you lose my respect because you can't spell. That tells me that you might not be educated. If you're not educated, it means you probably don't have the ability to think critically. Being able to think critically means you have to be able to look at your own emotional attachment to your beliefs and see if your emotions are getting in the way of your ability to see the truth. So right off the bat, I have doubts that you have the ability to do that because on the one hand, you're not asking a question. Number two, you're yelling at us in all caps, which means that you're insecure about what you're saying, which means that what I'm saying is frightening you. And so you're reacting out of fear instead of listening and applying it to yourself to see if it's true. To those who believe the God of the Bible is evil, type in pineal and then Ngande and watch his YouTube videos. He is it's NX, that's inaccurate, NX, occultist, now a Christian. So, Mariah, you can't speak for yourself. You don't have the sophistication to defend your own beliefs, so you're going to tell everybody and go watch somebody else. And so all you have to do is tell us that this guy's experience. So this guy was an ex-occultist and is now a Christian, and so we're going to go and listen to him, and because he had whatever experience he had and God appeared to him, then we should all believe like him? But I'm the opposite. I was a Christian. I was a full-on born-again Christian. I read the Bible in Greek and Latin. I went around and I fought against, like I would walk on the street with my New Testament Greek Bible and I would stop Mormons in the road and Jehovah's Witnesses and I would out-talk them, and show them that they were wrong about that. I would go to people and I would talk them into believing in Jesus and I would have them pray and accept Jesus and they would feel Jesus in their body. I used to do all that. I told you in the beginning, if you watch this, that I've seen Jesus twice in my visions. And I'm here to tell you he never existed. I'm an ex-Christian. I'm not an occultist. I'm a polytheist. You don't know the difference between an occultist and a polytheist. So why are you even watching this? Why are you even watching this video? I'll tell you why, because I'm a threat to you. I don't go and watch Christian videos because they're no threat to me. Besides, I know everything there is to know about that. I was a Christian for a very long time. I was, went to seminary and all that other crap. And there's nothing a Christian can say that's going to make me feel like my beliefs are in jeopardy because I know the truth. I know the truth about Christianity. Jesus said in the Bible, again, in all caps, the kingdom, you misspelled kingdom. Again, that shows me your lack of education, which then makes me believe you probably have a lack of critical thinking, which means you don't know how to analyze beliefs that you're being told. And I'm going to prove it to you. Jesus said the kingdom of God is within you. Yeah, he also said a bunch of other things. So you want us to take that one verse out of context because you want to say that God isn't doing it to you, that actually God lives within you, right? That's what you want to say. So do you know why it's called the kingdom? You probably don't even know why that word was used. Jesus, number one, never existed, but why did the writers of the Gospels use the word kingdom? This has to do with the understanding of Gnosticism, which came before literal fundamentalist Christianity. The Jewish messianic worshippers, which was the precursors for the Gnostics, like the Essenes. You've probably heard of the Essenes. If you haven't heard of the Essenes, Mariah, and you're a Christian, then that tells me you're not very educated on your own religion. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But the reason why the word kingdom is used, which if you think about it, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you say the kingdom of God? I mean, it's outside of, you've heard it over and over in Christianity, so you don't even think about it. But imagine you've never heard of Christianity and somebody says the kingdom of God. You're like, why would you need to, what is, the kingdom of God has to do with warfare. It has to do with an army that is overtaking and conquering something and creating a kingdom. Where do you think that comes from? That comes from the pre-Christian Jews wanted a military leader to come and save them from the Romans. They wanted a military leader to come and rally the Jewish people and militarily overthrow the Romans and create their kingdom. Now, the verse, the kingdom of God is within you, was written by Romans and ascribed to a Jewish Essene whom they called Jesus of Nazareth. Because Jesus of the Essenes were very popular because the Jews were in this huge revolt against the Roman Empire. I mean, they were terrorists, basically, attacking the Roman Empire, seeking to gain their freedom, and they wanted the Messiah to be this military king who was going to bring their kingdom back. But in order to pacify these rebellious Jews, what the Romans did is they put in the mouth of a supposed Essene named Jesus of Nazareth, they put in his mouth words that said, yeah, but the kingdom of God is within you. Give unto Caesar what is Caesar's and give unto God what is God. That's Roman speak for don't rebel and pay your taxes. That's why Jesus was a pacifist, because he was created by the Romans, and the Jews did not accept Jesus as the Messiah. For that reason, because the Jews who were fighting for their independence would never have accepted a pacifist who paid taxes to blasphemers. So the Romans created a character who told people to pay their taxes to the blasphemers. This quote that you want to give us out of historical context is meant to make us believe, but you see, Jesus tells us that God is within, and that's not what that means. It means don't fight against the Romans and pay your taxes. Don't think for yourself. Don't be self-empowered. And don't rule yourself. Let the elites rule over you and pay them with your hard work and your taxes. And you have no idea that that's what you're telling us when you give that. You know why? Because you have not studied your own religion. You only know what you've been told. You're operating purely by your emotions, and you have an emotional need for all of us to believe the same way you do. How do I know that? Because I was once just like you. I'm not attacking you. I'm not criticizing you. But again, if you come onto my channel and you do anything other than ask an honest question, I'm going to know what's really going on underneath. I probably know a hell of a lot more than you do about whatever it is you're talking about. And I'm going to show you the fallacy of your thinking. All right. What else? So Mariah now says she's not yelling. I'm typing in caps to get someone to read my messages. That's called yelling. You're yelling over everybody to get your attention. So that is what you're doing. I'm not in fear, and I deeply listen to your messages. Good. Good. You respect me. Good. I'm glad to hear that. I have had several visions of Jesus. All right, so let's talk about that. I've already told you I've had 2 visions of Jesus. They were all coming from, one of them I still can't explain, except to say that the human mind is extremely powerful. And I once saw in the clouds, the actual clouds themselves, I saw going across the sky, I saw the face of Jesus. And I saw, he must have been freaking 10 miles high and 10 miles wide. He was enormous. And I watched him go through the crucifixion. and the whole resurrection, the change in his face and all that. I still can't explain that. I'm sure if you were standing next to me, you would have seen it. So I don't think that it was me reading things into it, except to say that the human mind is so powerful that when we're motivated enough, we can change clouds. The other one was I went to heaven. I was pulled out of my body, and I was pulled through the atmosphere. I've talked about it. And I went into, there was a light, and I went into the light, and when the light embraced me, I was filled with an orgasmic bliss. My whole body was bursting with orgasmic bliss. I knew that I was in the presence of God, whatever that was. And I kept on saying, I'm home, I'm home, I'm home, I'm home. And I didn't want to leave. And then I started being pulled out of the light, and I started crying, no, 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 no. It was horrible. And I was brought back and woke up in my body. The next day, because I was a Christian, I told people I saw Jesus. But I didn't see Jesus. That light never said, hi, my name's Jesus. Now, there is this thing called your unconscious mind, which is perfectly capable of making you hallucinate and see things in vision and in real life. So just because you had visions of Jesus doesn't mean you saw Jesus. More than likely, it means that you had a vision of your own unconscious. When people die and they come back, they talk about Jesus is waiting for them. If they're Hindu, then Ganesha or Shiva is waiting for them. If they're Buddhist, Buddha is waiting for them. It means that even after death, you have the ability to project your own beliefs into whatever it is you believe the eternal to be. So just because you had visions of Jesus, that doesn't mean anything. I analyze all beliefs. I have millions of questions, and I just question everything. I don't believe just anything. Kingdom of God is the universe within. No, it's not. That's what you've been told, but that's not where it came from. I already described that. The kingdom of God was originally the kingdom, the military kingdom that was going to be brought by the military general Messiah that the Jews were waiting for. The Romans rewrote that because they heard that. They knew that the rebellious Jews had this belief in the Messiah, so they de-weaponized the Messiah, and then they had Jesus going around saying, no, the kingdom of God is within you. The kingdom is this, the kingdom is that. That was their propaganda. You just chose to believe it. So it doesn't matter that it's written that way. That's not what they originally meant by that. And if somebody does enough historical research, they'll find this out. The source creator has no specific name or religion. According to whom? Who told you that? That again, great propaganda to get you out of polytheism. Polytheism is about self-empowerment. You can't control somebody who is self-empowered. So the best way, and the Romans were smart. The Romans allowed people to have their own polytheism until they realized that if somebody has their own polytheist religion, they're very hard to dominate. So they came up with Christianity, and they perfected it when they tried to dominate the Jewish rebels who didn't buy into it. And so they used it on everybody else. Let's see what else. Rogue 7, please write the word question. What is the Odin part of us? Odin is your highest awareness. Woden, he who is consumed with Wod. Wod is the fury of self-awareness. And what happened when Woden achieved his awareness? The runes, the mysteries of the universe were revealed to him. Knowledge, self-knowledge. Woden is the highest awareness. He's enlightenment. Mariah, you still want to do this? I can do this all day. I can totally destroy anything you have to say. The first thing is, whenever you start giving me something like a blanket statement without any support for it, all I hear is the belief that you want to hear. So actually Jesus wants, well, first you're assuming Jesus exists. I can prove to you historically that Jesus of Nazareth never existed. So right there, we have a fundamental problem of assumption. So if you are operating from the assumption that Jesus of Nazareth, according to the New Testament, existed, then we can't have any discussion, because in order for me to discuss that with you, I have to accept your proposal that Jesus of Nazareth existed. And I know for a historical fact he didn't. So we have nothing to talk about. So you're saying Jesus, which is nobody, a fictional nobody. Fictional nobody wants holiness, righteousness of his Father. So now you want me to assume that this non-existent Jesus is in fact the only begotten Son of the one true God, because the Father, if I accept that, I have to accept that he is the one true God. I don't accept that either. So there's nothing in those first two sentences that you and I can talk about. And if you can't accept that you have a different belief than me, because if you want to talk in blanket statement facts, and if I don't blanket statement believe your religion as fact, I can't communicate with you and you can't communicate with me. So you're going to have to find another way to communicate, because I don't accept any of your assumptions that you put in that first sentence right there. And then you go on, I haven't even read it, and I've just proven to you that what you've done is to force your assumptions onto me. Then you go on to say, and I don't force or push my beliefs on anyone. You just did it to me. You just didn't realize it. I simply share my spiritual experience. That's not a spiritual experience. Jesus wants holiness, righteousness of his Father and his God is not an experience. It is a belief, and it's not a personal belief. It is a blanket statement. You're making a statement about the whole world, and you're forcing it down my throat. And you have no realization that you're doing it. Everybody, I'm using her as an example. Anybody, if she wants to stop getting, punished, she can stop talking anytime. But it's important to understand. We have to understand where everybody is coming from. Without being able to do that, you can't have objective understanding. You can't have critical thinking. In order for me to know what Mariah is saying, I have to have enough critical thinking to know when she's making assumptions, when she's forcing her assumptions onto me, and when she's unable to look at anything objectively and look at her own beliefs. Right now, she hasn't shown me that she has any ability to think critically. I'm not judging her. She has been programmed that way just like I was. I would have talked exactly like her if you had talked to me when I was 18. I simply share my spiritual experience, visions, and dreams on my own channel. Then what are you doing on my channel? I'm not on your channel. Do you see me going onto your channel trying to talk you out of your beliefs? You say you respect me and you come onto my channel, that's great. But why are you trying to talk me out of what I'm teaching instead of listening? Why do you have the need to argue with me? I know you're not angry with me. I know you're not trying to attack me. You're probably confused on some level. You probably want to hear a lot of what I say, but it's bumping into your assumptions. Why are you here talking to me if you have that much respect for me? Mariah Edmondson, I've seen a man standing at the, again, anything that you've seen, it doesn't mean it's true. I've seen all kinds of things. I told you, I saw Jesus once. I thought I saw him twice. I now believe that neither of them were Jesus. I walked to the front of my house at night to get the mail. I looked up to see the stars, and I saw a man standing on what looked like nothing. So who knows what you saw? From that, I can't see anything from that. That could be anything. But you can't deny the possibility that it could be your own unconscious projection. If you truly want to know the truth, you have to accept that that is at least one possibility. If you're unwilling to look at that, then you're not looking at things objectively. You're letting your emotions dictate what you think and what you believe. And then that is part of the destructive religion. Any religion that does not allow you the right to have your own thoughts and feelings and experiences is a destructive religion. Nothing that my eyes could see. He had a white dress and a golden sash or a waistband around his waist. His feet appeared as bright light, golden color. Okay, so what? I don't know who that is. And I don't deny that you saw that. Maybe if I was standing next to you, I would have seen the same thing. It doesn't mean it's true. And it doesn't mean that you didn't make it happen or hallucinate it. Even if it was really there, it doesn't mean you didn't project it. This is the difference between me and you. You believe that you're like this and that God is like this. I believe that I'm like this and God is like this. I created God. So you could have created that being. It's a whole other way of looking at it. 7 small stars, 7 clay-looking objects. Yeah, none of that means anything other than, you were, to me, I could be wrong, but you were projecting your own religious symbolisms to give yourself justification to believe what you believe. Doesn't say anything. So what? What do you say about somebody who sees something completely opposite? Having a vision doesn't prove anything. You have to know that. All right. Nothing else. All right. So, there you go. I don't have anything to say at the moment. Nobody's asking any questions. So when you know the drill, if you don't have any questions, then I have to either entertain you or sell you on something. Lockdown.thunderwizard.com. During this lockdown, I am giving away $3,214 worth of all of my teachings. I'm giving it away. The only thing that you're paying for is 5 personal services from me, which will be done via Skype. And included in that lockdown are things like both of the certifications for astrology and rune readings, all of my teachings, the celestial qigong, how to find your perfect career, how to find your soul desire, all of that stuff, lockdown.thunderwizard.com. Thunderwizard.com. That is my subscription site. If you want to support the channel, you can go there and you can subscribe at any level you want. And you'll have access to videos that go into even more depth than we do here on this channel. And you'll have access to, I guess, probably thousands of hours at this point of videos that go into greater depth than on this channel. And you can, unsubscribe whenever you want. Courses.thunderwizard.com. All of my books, all of my teachings, but basically, everything you'd get there except for things like books and stuff like that I don't control. You can go to lockdown.thunderwizard.com and get that and save yourself $3,214. Of course, subscribe and hit the bell button. And let's get this message out. Put the links to these videos into your Instagram and your Facebook and your who's you what's it pagey face thing, whatever the hell people use now to communicate via social media. And let's see, are there any more questions since then? No. Mikey is asking a kind of a question I don't really care about, but I may get to it. But so before we go, we need to talk to one of my friends who is a fan of the channel. And he has a lot of opinions himself. So let's see what he has to say today. I'm going to stand in front of the whole congregation and I'm going to tell people how stupid you are. I'm an idiot. I didn't have the volume turned up on that. So anyway, I won't waste your time. I won't force you to watch it again. Anyway, I'm going to see if there are any questions, if any questions came up. Bear in mind, normally I don't allow anybody to say anything. I'm going to stand in front of the whole congregation and I'm going to tell people how stupid you are. I'm an idiot. Yep, that's what I'm going to do. So bear in mind, I normally don't allow people to do that, but things are shifting a little bit. I'm now doing these, by the way, I'm doing these marathons. What I'm doing is I'm going back into older question and answers, and I'm putting together these 2, 4, 6, 8 hour marathons, so that there's something constantly on my channel. I want this channel to get huge. So I want to make this channel eventually be 24/7, so that there's always something to watch, like a television station. There's always something to watch on my channel. And I'm not monitoring those, so a lot of people just come on and just type whatever the hell they feel like typing. Normally I won't put up with that, because I'm only interested in answering people's questions. And so if you're new to the channel and you're coming on here and you're going to give an opinion, you are setting yourself up to have me slice and dice you. Because if I can use you as an example to show others how we, including myself, how we can improve in our thinking, and how our thinking is flawed and how it's destructive, I'm going to use you as an example. So smart people just come onto my channel and just ask honest questions, because they know if they don't, that I could come after you pretty hard. So Mikey L says, what is your diet? My diet is, I eat a lot of protein. So I eat fish and chicken, and I have protein drinks all the time because I need a lot of protein. My body likes to be muscular, so the more protein I eat, the happier I am. So I have a lot of, I use pea protein powder, and I do that a lot. And other than that, I don't eat a whole hell of a lot more than that. I probably should eat more vegetables, but I kind of just, I'm a bachelor, and I just stay at home and I just cook fish and chicken, and I take a lot of things like green stuff, like what is that green crap? Anyway, like the green powdered crap, and I put that stuff in my protein powder, so I get enough veggies in there. So don't come after me for diet. I don't eat red meat. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't drink coffee, because they'll destroy you. They'll age you very fast. I try and stay away from unhealthy foods as best I can, but I'm not perfect about that. Steve Madden. Steve Madden, are you the Steve Madden that I know? Am I thinking, is that his last name? Steve? Are you the guy that I know? If I am, you'll know who I'm talking. If you are, you'll know who I'm talking about. Question: is COVID man-made? No. I did a Rune reading a while back about that, and the Rune reading came up that at the very least there may have been some cooperation between deep state Chinese, weapons, bioweapons, and people who are researching it. I believe the evidence that's come about that this is a virus that existed within bats. And I believe that it's very possible that it could have been as a result of the wet market, where for some strange reason Chinese people are wanting to eat bats, and so somebody got bat blood up his nose. I also think it's very possible that it could have been as a result of having bats and other animals like pangolins together, and what happens is the pangolin, this is how we get the flu, by the way. Influenza is bird flu, which is not communicable to humans, and you put pigs next to them, and the pigs get the virus, and then the virus mutates in order to work with pigs, and then pigs give it to humans, because pigs are more like humans on a DNA level. So that's how we get the flu every year, because you put pigs and birds together. If we stop doing that, this is a result of Chinese doing stupid things. They just get weird animals and shove them together, and then chop them up, and that's how we end up with these crazy diseases that we shouldn't have. Now, is that something that was taken advantage of by the Chinese government? I think it's possible. I think it's possible that that this could have been a bioweapons attack on the world in order for China to be able to manipulate things in order to get more money and more power when it came to like the power that they have now. Everybody, all the refrigerators and washing machines and televisions are coming from China. I'm not saying it is or it isn't. I'm saying this is a possibility. And I'm also saying it's a possibility it could just have been some idiot, chopping up a bat and getting bat blood up his nose, and then he got sick. Could have been just that simple. But I don't rule out the possibility that it wasn't manipulated in order for China to try and affect world markets and economies and things like that. But I'm not married to that. If so, how does karma affect those who made it? Well, I mean, it's affect those who made it the same way karma affects everybody. You're going to have to pay for that somewhere. I mean, doesn't that make sense? If you do something out of selfishness and greed and harm, you're going to end up having to experience that. So it's not going to affect them any differently than it affects us when we've done things out of our selfishness. I think that's a pretty self-evident. I mean, your question is, you want me to go off on how China is going to be, or whoever, that they're going to be attacked and they're going to be punished. It's, I feel kind of manipulated that that's where you want me to go with that, but it's not going to be any different than anything else. Truth is that this kind of thing can't happen to the whole world unless we, on an unconscious level, wanted it to happen. This is the lockdown that we're experiencing, the feeling of being trapped, is on the one hand, we're all now forced to realize that we're all human. Because it doesn't matter what country or what ethnicity, what language we speak, anybody can get the COVID virus and spread it. Doesn't matter who you are. So this is a karmic wake-up call for the whole earth. This is a result of every 18 years, Rahu and Ketu get into a certain alignment. Ketu, which represents destruction of the illusions of reality, he goes and sits in the center of the galaxy. And the center of the galaxy is a black hole. So he sits in the center of the galaxy, of our galaxy, which is a black hole. And the God who destroys illusion then does something. Every 18 years it has happened. This year it's the COVID virus. 18 years ago it was 9/11. 18 years before that it was the AIDS epidemic. 18 years before that it was President Kennedy was shot. 18 years before that it was Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So every 18 years, the god of the southern node of the moon sits in the black hole at the center of the galaxy and explodes this thing over the entire Earth, which makes us go, whoa, we're all one. And we can either choose to respond out of our fear and do stupid things and make it worse, or we can stop and go, hang on, there's no such thing as nations and boundaries. We're all one people. And if we do that, then we start moving towards our higher evolution. So I could make the argument that this is our unconscious desire to evolve. Whether or not we choose to do it or not is up to us. Mariah Edmondson, she to her credit, she just won't go down. Religion is past, true to. I don't know what that means. That has been changed over time, mixed with deception. Yeah, so I can tell where you're going with this argument. I'm going to read your whole statement, but I already know where you're going with this argument. And you're deflecting. You're not being honest. You're deflecting. You're using double speak, and you're using words to distract from the truth. And I'll show you after I read it. Religion is past, I think you meant to say truth. Religion is past truth that has been changed over time, mixed with deception and lies for control, but the wisdom and the knowledge of the truth it can give is great, and I honor and respect Jesus. The argument you're trying to make is that there's a difference between religion and Jesus. And all that means is that you have, out of your narcissism, this isn't an attack, it's just the truth. Out of your fear and your narcissism, your fear of you can't let go of Jesus. You've already said that. I honor and respect Jesus. What you're saying is you can't let go of him. You don't want to believe in things like hell. You don't want to believe in things like Jehovah hates humans so much that he throws them into eternal torment because they don't love him and believe in him. You don't like that part, but you love the parts that you can take out of context, like the kingdom of God is within, and for God so loved the world, and Jesus is love, and Jesus healed the lepers. You can take all of those things out of context because they make you feel good. But on an unconscious level, you can't let go of the abusive psychopath Father God. You can't let go of that, but you will cover it over in your intellect and spiritualize it so you'll make it good. And the way you justify it to yourself is you say, well, the stuff I don't like is religion. But the feeling that I have, which again, there's the, I wish I could remember the name. Anyway, when people who are held captive, there's a psychological survival mechanism that takes over that makes them fall in love with their captors. And the something syndrome, somebody will remind me of it. And that's what's happening with you. So you come onto my channel, according to you, you come onto my channel, you watch what I say, and my message has not deviated one bit. There has not been one thing that I've said that hasn't been attacking monotheism and the Bible and Christianity and Jehovah. There has not been one time that I have said anything positive about it. So you can't accept my message without hearing that. And you can't worship Jesus without accepting the fact that God the Father hates you. He wants to murder you. And that he instead is going to ritualistically murder his son in front of you and force you to watch him. And then take on the guilt. What you're responding to, what you think is love, is actually the trauma and the guilt that victims have when they are held hostage by psychopathic murderers. And what you want to do is you want to tell me that there's a difference between your love for Jesus and the bad things about religion. And I'm trying to tell you, you cannot. It is logically impossible for you to accept Jesus without, on an unconscious level, accepting the wrath and the hatred of God the Father. So nothing you've said has told me anything other than you're trapped in a delusion. And you can't let go of it. Because if you were to let go of Jesus, you're afraid you'd go to hell. I know because I was there. I know because I had to let go of Jesus, and I didn't do it because I didn't believe in him anymore. I did it because I could no longer worship a God that threw people in hell forever for no reason. And I was certain, I was certain I was going to go to hell for it. But my integrity would not let me continue to worship him. And if I said, well, if I have to go to hell, at least I'll have my integrity. And I remember telling people that. You can't do that yet. Maybe you'll be able to, but right now you can't. You want to let go of that, but you can't. You're afraid you're going to go to hell. And so you still hang on to loving Jesus. And you're no different. There's millions of people out there just like you. The majority of the New Age Christians who want to buy into the idea that Jesus was a loving teacher, but forget all the religious part of it, have no idea that in order to accept Jesus, you have to accept his Father. And his Father is a psychopathic murderer. And he doesn't exist, by the way. He is your own ego. He is your own narcissism. Jehovah is nothing more than the human narcissistic element within us. I am that I am. There shall be nobody before me. That is our narcissism. So whenever somebody gets on their knees and they pray to God the Father, they're praying to their own ego. They're praying to their own narcissism. Let's see, is my sound off? I don't think so. No, my sound is on. The sound was off before. Mikey L, what is it in the coffee that kills you? Is caffeine? No, not just caffeine. It's all of the other acids and stuff in it. It actually tears away and destroys the sheath, the nerve. That's why people are. It's not just the caffeine that makes them nervous. It's the acids in there. It destroys the sheath of your nervous system. It's really dangerous. Messenger of the truth. There's really nothing to say here. 4 horsemen of apocalypse is on the charge. First horseman has a crown, corona. Second horse is red, so big war is coming very soon. Even if what you say is true, so what? It doesn't mean anything. I don't know why you're even watching my channel. Tricia Walker question, do any of the ancient gods you speak of ever reincarnate into people walking around today? No. Vishnu is said to incarnate as human beings, but I don't believe that he physically did that. I believe all of them they're mythological stories, and the essence of them is true. They do exist. You can worship them and experience them, but I don't believe that they walked around. The only one that would qualify is Buddha. But Buddha wasn't a god. You know, the way that the majority of stuff written about Buddha is, you know, stuff written after the fact. Buddha was a normal human. He died of disease. He was a meat eater. And he was very sick and died from, I don't know, some horrific, horrible diseases. The only thing that the Buddha taught was that life was painful. Actually, what he taught was that attachment was painful, and that the best way to get through life was to be non-attached. And so he didn't even teach religion. But he would be the aspect of Mercury, because Mercury is the intellect. And he would be the aspect of Mercury that comes to understand that attachment, emotional agendas, I call them agendas. Emotional agendas cause pain. So to be free from emotional agenda really was his message. Other than that, I don't believe that any of the gods incarnated as humans. It's okay with me if you believe that. I personally don't. Let's see. Stockholm Syndrome. Thank you, Ganunga. I don't know why I keep, I'm starting to worry about my mind. There's just sometimes I just can't remember words. It's starting to worry me. Stockholm Syndrome. Yeah, so in order to be a Christian, you have to get Stockholm Syndrome. When people are weeping, like when they're weeping to Jesus, like I did in church, and they're singing and they're using their hands to wash the ceiling, that kind of thing. And they're crying because Jesus died for me. I'm so horrible and he loves me so much. That's the Stockholm Syndrome. It's a way of staying connected. One of the things that you constantly see, before I did this, I always like to do searches on YouTube to see the kinds of things that people, what phrases, get the most hits. And I was researching, what would be a good title for this. And what came up was how Satan tries to destroy your faith. And it once again dawned on me, the only people in the world who talk like that are Christians. You never hear a Hindu ever say, worry about his faith. You never hear a shaman, worry about somebody, taking them out of their faith. They just don't have that gnawing doubt. That gnawing doubt is because Christianity is completely antithetical to common sense and love and reality. And that's why Christians are constantly having to force themselves to keep believing this nonsense. Not only is it nonsense, but it's just so destructive. And that, listen, I was a Christian for a long time, and you can tell somebody who's hardcore Christian when you look them in the eyes. When you look them in the eyes and a 25-year-old or a 35-year-old has huge bags under their eyes, and their eyes are red all the time, and it's not from taking drugs. It's because they're under so much emotional pressure all the time that their eyes just turn red. And they have this crazed look in their eyes. They seem really nice, and you'll talk to them, and they'll seem really nice, but there will be this weird look in their eyes all the time. I lived with it. And it's because they're constantly in battle with themselves with this horrifically, murderously psychopathic God that they worship, and they're struggling with it. And they feel so guilty. so guilty for any doubt about him. And I know because I've spent no shortage of Bible studies and, sermons and gatherings when I was a Christian, and that was a huge topic. Struggling with believing in God and believing in Jesus, and it's just horrible. And then there's all kinds of things. They struggle with their own human drives. One of the things that was common to say in like men's Bible studies was, I've been struggling with lust. Well, first off, they don't mean lust, but even if it was lust, it's like, that's a normal thing. It's a normal thing to have a sexual desire. It's normal. Our bodies are designed to start procreating at the age of like 13. And way back when, that's when kids got married. They got married at 13 and started squeezing out kids. But, Jesus won't allow that. God the Father won't allow that. But what they meant was masturbation. That just the natural urge to release these, men especially, they're especially young men. Young men are creating thousands of sperm per second. Their body is screaming at them to release that. And they're not allowed to just have sexual feelings, let alone masturbate. So you'd hear a lot of guys with guilt talk about, I've been struggling with lust. It's just a horrible religion. There's just nothing about it that's good. It's just so destructive. Let's see. So Mariah, she can't, one of the things about Mariah, listen, if you're so comfortable with your belief in Jesus, why do you keep coming back for more? You can't stop. You can't stop trying to argue with me about it. It only makes you look more desperate because you're still here. What's really going on, I'm going to tell you what's really going on with you, Mariah. On an unconscious level, you want me to convince you to let go of the religion. There's a part of you that wants to let go of it. And you can't. And you want my help. That's why you keep coming back. Jesus can be known inside and outside of religion. Yeah, you can make up any Jesus you want. The Jesus that was created was the one in the New Testament. And even the ones that you create outside of religion will never be divorced from sin and salvation. Because if you take that away, then you just have Buddha. And you're not talking about Buddha, or you would become Buddhist. You're talking about Jesus. So you say that, but that's not really true. You can never, no matter how much you sanitize Jesus or spiritualize him or de-weaponize him, you can't get away from Jesus died on the cross for your sins. You can't get away from that. And that means that you're a worthless piece of garbage that is going to be thrown into hell. And that's why you love Jesus, because you believe you're a worthless piece of garbage that's going to go to hell. That's why you love him so much. You don't need to believe what others believe just because a preacher on a pulpit. Well, the preacher on the pulpit is giving you what the Bible says. That's not his fault. The fact that you can't own up to yourself that you can't let go of Jesus, and you have to make up a new Jesus that is something different from the Bible, which means you can make up any Jesus you want. You can't own up to that. That's not his fault. To his credit, he's telling you here's the defining text, and here's what it says about him. The one thing that I agree with fundamentalist Christians is you either take the whole Bible or you take none of it. Totally agree. That's why I take none of it. Because if you end up in the middle, then you only take what you want, which means nothing. Which means you're making up your own religion. If you're going to make up your own religion, then make it up. But you still can't get away from the fact that Jesus is the sacrifice for your sin, and that you are a worthless piece of garbage that God is going to throw in the trash can unless Jesus dies for you. You can't get rid of that no matter how much of the religion that you want to get rid of. You can't get rid of it. Messenger of the Trent Witt question: do you have any videos that explain your extent in Christianity? What do you mean, my extent? I don't know what that means. My extent in Christianity and what caused you to leave it? Yeah, I talk about it all the time. I would like to know more of the backing story. Well, watch my videos. I'll eventually, especially watch my videos about Christianity. Again, let me make the, a lot of people, it just drives me crazy. One of the reasons I'm doing these marathons is because there are so many of my followers on YouTube that don't put the time in to watch my videos. So I'll take a video from 1, 2, or 3 years ago and I'll just, put it as a rerun, and people will watch it as though it's the first time. And it's like, I'm like, well, why haven't you seen that before? Why are you following my channel and not going back and watching more of them? Some of you do, but a lot of you don't. Trent, what you do is you go onto my channel, and depending on what you use, if it's on a laptop, you go onto YouTube and type in Thunder Wizard. My page will come up. You go to my YouTube page, and then the menu, right next to videos or something, there's a magnifying glass. Not the one at the top, but next to the menu next to thunderwizard.com. You click on that, and then you can enter any search term you want. Type in Christianity, and you can watch all of my videos about Christianity that'll come up. And you will hear me talk about it. You can also get my books. Are you reading my books? The Thunder Wizard Path, Odin Says Jesus Was a Coward. I talk about my experience with Christianity all over the place. So it's just put the time and effort to watch my stuff. I know I got a lot of information out there, so I know it's hard to get through all of it. But if you look for it, you can find it. Mariah Edmondson can't stop. She just can't give up. Gods equal men. What does that mean? Also, they are created beings. This is Messenger of Truth, sorry. No, I missed, sorry. Messenger of Truth, we're not even going to deal with him, I don't think. He's an obvious, Christian, and he's not really part of the discussion. He's just here to badmouth me as I badmouth his religion. So she says, your misjudgment is great and many, in your opinion. Mariah, I could give a crap what you think. My misjudgments are great and many. Yes, you know and have more knowledge on myths and religions than most people, but the judgment you have against a stranger is your downfall. Now, what do you mean is my downfall? Why do you have to turn it into that? Now you sound like a Christian. Before you were somebody who was, I respect you, I'm coming onto your channel, and I'm telling you as I read you, I'm just simply picking apart what you say and showing you from your own words that you are afraid of letting go of Jesus, that you worship a maniacal, psychopathic murderer. And if you really were okay with that, you would go, if you're right, maybe you're right, I don't know, or I'm not sure I agree with you, but now, because you've tried now to pretend, now your true nature as a Christian is coming out. You've tried to pretend that you and I are having this discussion and you're listening to what I say, and now you have nothing left to say, and so now you're just going to say, my misjudgments are great and many, and my judgment against a stranger, which is you. So a stranger has within it, you're some poor stranger walking along and I've come out of nowhere attacking you. Bear in mind, you came onto my channel and repeatedly wanted to argue with me and discuss with me a counterpoint. And because I have successfully, I've obviously been successful because now you're at the ad hominem part where you're attacking me personally. And you're going to say that it's my downfall because I disagree with you and I've shown you to be irrational, that is my downfall. That is Jehovah. If you don't love me, you hate me. And if you hate me, I will punish you. It will be your downfall. Now you've proven to all of us. This is the end result of Christianity. It is not love. It is not acceptance. It is condemnation. You have now condemned me on a personal level because it's my downfall. I have not condemned you personally. I have pointed out what I believe to be your thought process. I do believe that you are trapped and addicted to believing the religion of a psychopathic abuser, and that you are stuck in Stockholm Syndrome and you can't let go of it. I have nothing but compassion for you. And I'm coming at you ruthlessly because I'm attacking your beliefs and your mindset. I'm not attacking you personally. You just attacked me personally. You've proven to us the psychopathic nature of religion, and that it is impossible to believe in Jesus without at least having a judgment against people on some level. You've proven it. So thank you for that. Messenger of Truth, I don't even know why you're here. Dion Trujillo, don't attack Mariah. She hasn't gone crazy. She's not my enemy. Don't attack her. Okay, Mariah Edmondson, she still can't stop. Nobody is a worthless piece of garbage. I agree. That's the whole point. Did you miss that? That's the whole point. Everyone has ignorance in one thing or another. What does that have to do with anything? I'm telling you that God the Father believes that you are a worthless piece of garbage. I didn't say you were a worthless piece of garbage. I said that Jehovah thinks you're a worthless piece of garbage and wants to throw you in the trash. You have to listen. And then now you've shown me you can't listen objectively. You don't have critical thinking. Your emotions are blocking your ability to hear what I'm telling you. You can't even see that I'm your best friend right now. That I'm the guy who's reaching down in the pit and giving you a hand to pull you out. You can't see that. All you see is I'm attacking you. So now you're going to attack me back. Nobody's a worthless piece of garbage. Everybody has ignorance in one thing or another, but may also have knowledge in a different subject. So now you're saying that I'm attacking your knowledge. And I'm not. You think because you have knowledge in something else that that has nothing to do with the fact that your understanding about Jesus is flawed. Your thought process surrounding Jesus is flawed. That doesn't mean you're a worthless piece of garbage, and it doesn't mean you don't have knowledge in other things. But your knowledge in other things aren't helping you right now. So stop deflecting. Trentwood, I have ordered Odin says Jesus was a coward, and I'm currently sorting through all your videos. Okay, good. Rogue One, correction. So please write the word question. I'm getting so lax in my own rules. Is Jehovah or the religions based on him a manipulator, an abuser of humanity? The religions of Jehovah are used by those in power to manipulate humanity. Yes. Jehovah doesn't exist. Jehovah is your own narcissistic ego. So people who are narcissistic controllers use Jehovah in order to control and manipulate you. Mariah Edmondson, can't stop. The problem with all humanity. So here we go. This is again, Christians think in dualistic terms. Everything is all or nothing. There's good or bad. There's God or Satan. And we have blanket statements. We have blanket statements for everything. The problem with all humanity is taking and picking sides with everything instead of seeing the truth and deception in all things. I completely agree with you. What's your point? Now, it is okay to pick a side. Would you say that to a Nazi? What if a Nazi said to you, hey, look, I'm not going to say that. They just have this belief system that's really oppressive. That's just their belief. And I don't think people should pick a side, and you shouldn't judge me for that. So you're saying that if I take a side against Christianity, that I'm somehow, I'm part of the problem? I don't agree with you. I'm not going to co-sign anybody's belief system that destroys themselves or destroys others. And I believe that Christianity is an extremely abusive and destructive belief system and insidious. And I'm going to do everything in my power to bring it to light. That's why the title of this video is Declare War Against the One God. I'm declaring war against it. If you don't like it, plenty of other channels you can go to. But it's not spiritual just to not to analyze people's beliefs. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong about analyzing and discussing beliefs. And I have the ability to pick it apart because I was one. I'm not attacking anything that I wasn't myself. I'm going to show anybody who wants to know how Christianity and Abrahamic religion is the most destructive and evil thing that has existed on planet Earth. And because you happen to side with Christianity, you feel attacked. I'm going to pick a side. You don't have to take it personally if you don't want. Messenger of Truth he has to yell at us in all caps because he's a Christian. And he says, gods you believe, he means to say believe in, are created beings. In your opinion. I disagree with you. What now? Well, if this were Middle Ages, because I disagreed with you, you would have me flayed alive or burned at the stake. That's why you have to put your message in all caps. Because you can't actually talk things through or explain from knowledge or love or reason. You have to throw your opinion. And you think, and this is true, the thing is true. If you throw your opinion at somebody hard enough and long enough, they eventually buy into it. This is the essence of fake news. By the way, fake news has been hijacked. The term fake news was brought to light because there were Russians who were putting fake news into Facebook, trying to change the outcome of our election. And somebody said fake news, and then Trump picked up on it and started saying fake news about anything that he didn't like. And so now fake news is now associated with the so-called mainstream media. And this is a Christian tactic. And this is our friend Messenger of Truth. He says if he keeps yelling at us at all caps that the gods that we believe in are created beings, because that's his belief, if he thinks if he keeps yelling at us long enough, then we will believe him. So Messenger of Truth, his next statement has been put by YouTube, has been hidden, but I'm going to show it to you because he's then, the other thing that Christians do is they don't have any backing for what they say. They just say it's in God's word, and God's word says, and therefore it's true. And so they have a very childish way of communicating, which is this means this and that means that. They have blanket statements and they can't back it up. And they put it in all caps and they yell at you. And Messenger of Truth does that again here. So I'll show you. He says, Odin equals Satan. Now he has no backing for that. He has no historical. He has no linguistic. The words Odin and the word Satan have no connection to them whatsoever. One of these days I'm going to do a video on who Satan really is, what Satan really is. Thor equals false messiah, which is Thor is not a messiah. So the idea that Thor is a false messiah, you're just making stuff up here. Freya equals Lilith, that's just not true. But Messenger of Truth says if he can just throw out statements, blanket statements as facts long enough that you'll accept it, because that's how he's been taught. He hasn't been taught how to actually think. He goes to a church and he gets thrown blanket statements from pastors who sit behind pulpits and scream at the top of their lungs. That's why he has to put everything into all caps. Steve Madden, how do I approach loved ones who choose to remain in Christendom? You don't approach them. Leave them alone. It's none of your business. If they want to be Christians, let them be Christians. If they want to follow what you follow, they'll come and ask you. This is the difference between Messenger of Truth and you, Steve. Steve, you have your own path which works for you. And if somebody wants to know what you believe, they can come and ask you. Whereas Christians will force it down your throat. And if we go back far enough in time, they would put a knife to your neck and said, if you don't believe in Jesus, we'll kill you. And this is many of our ancestors. Or they would force you to swallow snakes. That's another thing that Christians would do. And Messenger of Truth doesn't do that now because we have laws against it. But if we took him back into time, he would be supporting those people that burned people at the stake and shoved snakes down their throat. And we see this because he types in all caps whenever he wants to slam his opinion down your throat. So, Steve Madden, you don't approach them. Leave them alone. It's none of your business. Let them believe whatever the hell they want. When they're ready for something else, they'll find it. Just T Baby, where'd you go? Question, are there any particular spiritual reasons why my brand of new black obsidian runes have a white film appear on one rune that you described as the rune reaching, the El Hajj rune? I have no, I don't know. I have no answer to that question. It's an interesting phenomenon, but who knows? I can't answer that. Trisha Walker question, do you believe that any of the gods you speak of reincarnate? I think I already answered that. Messenger of the truth. Oh, he doesn't, now he's picking and choosing which words he wants to put in all caps. Odin didn't like Jesus because he who cast Odin from heavenly realm. Well, in your opinion, I think differently. What are you going to do now? Dion Trujillo. All right, let's see. Mariah Edmondson. Wow, why are you still here? Mariah, why are you still here? I am not claiming my beliefs are a fact. Good for you. I am open to learning and I am not a closed-minded person. Good for you. I don't side with Christianity. Well, you do. You side with the form of Christianity you're trying to hold on to and present to us. You are siding with that. And to be clear, I am siding against you. It's nothing personal. It's a matter of principle. So it's okay for people to take sides. You wanted to say earlier that it wasn't okay, that the problem with humanity is people picking sides. There's nothing wrong with people picking sides. It's just how they choose to express that. If one person wants to forcibly, violently force somebody into believing their side, then they are, doing it in a less than ideal way. I am picking a side and I am using my mind and my intelligence and my words to go to war against monotheist Christianity. You don't have to agree with me. If you disagree with me and you stop watching my channel and stop, talking, I will never interact with you. You'll be perfectly fine. So there's nothing wrong with picking a side. It's okay with me that you pick a side. I believe that picking a side is the ignorance and misunderstanding. I completely disagree with you. Now you are being codependent and you want everybody to love you. And everybody is not going to love you. There are people who will hate you for what you believe. You don't like the idea of Christians judging you and hating you because, again, Mariah, what you want, I'm telling you what you want. You can choose to believe it or not, and perhaps I'm wrong. But it is my belief that what you want is you really want somebody to help you let go of this psychopathic murderer. And you want to be able to find the love in the universe without having to go through the filter of Jesus. I know because I was there. I walked away from Christianity and I started practicing Taoist mysticism and I started learning from African teachers and I started doing yoga and Tai Chi and other things. And I felt all of this love coming from the universe and none of that confessed Jesus. And I was taught that any spirit or any power or any feeling that doesn't confess Jesus is of the devil. And when I was doing spiritual practices in Taoism and I felt this huge power come into me, I was so afraid because I knew it was totally non-Christian and that Jesus had nothing to do with it. And I chose to follow the evidence. The evidence of, interacting with the universe was giving me more love than anybody else. It was also interesting that all of my non-Christian friends would have walked in front of a bus for me. And my Christian friends, once they saw that I was moving away from Christianity, started attacking me. And I knew, while I was a Christian, I knew that I couldn't trust my Christian friends, but I could trust my non-Christian friends. The evidence of reality shows that Christianity is not, in and of itself, a religion of love. So you're afraid to pick a side because you don't want to be attacked. And the people who are going to attack you are going to be the Christians. If you let go of that, they're going to come after you. So what you're really saying is you don't want to be hated, that you'll do whatever it takes to get everybody to love you. And as much as I understand that, now you're staying in that pool of self-hatred. And you don't realize it, but that's what Christianity has created for you. Just He Baby. Sorry, Mahadeva, for asking you this question on this platform. Again, I like to have people write the word question. So please do that if you can. I am just looking for answers. What question did you ask? I don't even remember. Or did you get to the question yet? What question are you talking about? I don't remember. Let me go back in time and see if you said something. Question, are there any particular spiritual reasons why you can ask me any question you want. I don't know why you're apologizing. I just didn't have an answer for you. If I had one, I would have given you one. You know me. If I think I know what I'm talking about, I'm going to tell you. Rogue 7, that's not a question. Messenger of Truth doesn't have any questions. He's got all the answers. Judgment is near, so soon you will all see the true God. He wants us to be afraid. Messenger of Truth, judgment. So you're saying that Jesus is going to judge us. He's going to put us in hell. God the Father is going to judge us for what? For our opinions. I have a different opinion than you. And that in and of itself is going to bring God's judgment, the true God. What a beautiful message. Let's see. Mariah Edmondson. Yeah. When are you going to stop? I'm not against any of your teachings. Yes, you are. It's okay. You are. You can have your own opinion, Mariah. You are against it. You are against the idea that Jesus is a homicidal maniac. You are against that. Own it. There is truth in everything. And what's your point? There is truth in, I could take any philosophy and find truth in it. That doesn't mean anything here. Why are you saying that? You're running away from something here. Why are you doing that? There's truth in everything. Those who pick a side not being able to see the truth. The truth, the way you called the truth. You didn't say truths. You said the truth. They have to pick a side to see the truth. Why are you pretending to be something that you're not? Stop pretending. The other side, information, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, David Dahl, question. What do you believe happens when we die? I've talked about this. You can go and watch my videos about reincarnation. Watch my videos about what happens in the afterlife. It's a very long question, so welcome to the channel, David. Do as I've said before, go onto my channel page, type into YouTube Thunder Wizard. My channel page will come up. Go to where the menu is and go to where the little magnifying glasses or whatever the menu is and type any search word you want within my channel. Learn how to type within my channel and put in afterlife. And all kinds of things will come up. All right. That's it for me, guys. How long have I been talking? I've been talking a long time. So I'm going to call it a day because I'm getting a headache. This is just the beginning. I'm going to war. Full-fledged war. I'm going to go to war against Jehovah. I'm not going to war against any people. I'm not going to war against your right to believe whatever you want. I'm not going to go onto your channel and come after you. But if you come onto my channel and you want to actually talk about things, I'm going to bring my considerable experience and my gray hairs to it. And I am dedicated to destroying, to the best of my ability, the belief in Jehovah. Because I believe that Jehovah is not a real God for the one hand. He's made up. He's a new God that's come onto the scene within the past 2,500 years. Before that, he did not exist. And he is nothing more than the human narcissistic ego. I am that I am. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. If you love me, you will follow all of my commandments perfectly, And if you do not follow all of my commandments perfectly, you hate me. And if you hate me, I will come after you. Those are his words, not mine. That is the God that I believe is nothing other than the human narcissistic ego. And I don't think we should be worshiping our own narcissism. It's very destructive. And I'm going after it, and I'm going to do everything in my power to destroy it. And I'm ready for battle. On a spiritual level and a psychological and philosophical level, not on a physical level, I do not and am not suggesting any type of physical violence whatsoever, nor am I suggesting any type of personal attack, whether mental or emotional or in any other way against any other person regardless of their beliefs. Just want to be clear on that. A couple of questions have come up. You caught me before I got off. Rogue 7, if you have a question, write the word question, please. Isn't it true that when someone goes to spiritual or shamanic teacher in India that they don't go to him or her to argue but only to learn? That is true. Vikings TV question. I have heard some folks say that the gods are actually the race of aliens called the Nordics. What do you think of this, and would it take away from their divinity? I don't believe in that. I think it minimizes it myself. I think it's a lack of understanding of what mythology is and what deities are. I understand why people believe that, but a lot of people who believe in aliens and all that kind of stuff are all mixed up in all kinds of crazy fear-based nonsense. And so when you're coming from that mindset, it's everything, they have to, people who believe that are people who have to make everything literal. And that's usually a very childish perspective, childish meaning emotionally immature. And most people like, who's the guy? The purveyor of ultimate truth. What's his name? Messenger of Truth. Messenger of Truth is, I don't know the guy, but I already know that he's emotionally very childish because he can't communicate, he can't accept any other beliefs, and he's incapable of backing up anything he says with anything other than just throwing out judgment and blanket statements and all that. And that's what little children do. So on another level similar to that, in order to believe that the gods of Norse mythology are an actual physical race of beings called the Nordics, it helps little immature minds because they need things literal. That's why Christians love the Bible, because the Bible is presented as literal historic truth. Even if you can prove it wrong, just the fact that somebody says this is historic truth, it makes them feel better. It's coming from an emotionally immature place. Alex, if you have a question, write the word question so I can see you. Does heathenry have to be anti-Christian? By nature it does, yeah. Because Christianity, heathenry, we're using that term loosely. The indigenous polytheist religion of the Germanic people existed for tens of thousands of years before Christianity was ever even invented. And Christianity is a warlike religion. In fact, it's a religion of destruction. It is an exclusionist religion. So, in order to be a polytheist means that you accept multiple gods, you accept multiple beliefs and multiple faiths, and you allow people to have their faith, whatever it is. Christianity doesn't do that. Christianity says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but through me. And so only, to be a Christian means you have to disbelieve in everything else. That is just the nature of Christianity. So Christians set it up that way. If Christianity had been created like any other belief that says, oh, this is my belief and you have yours, great, then they would have been side by side and been fine. But Christianity literally put swords to people's necks and flayed them alive simply because they believed in their indigenous religion that had been their heritage for tens of thousands of years. So yes, it's impossible to be a heathen and be pro-Christian. It's just, you can't, they don't go together. Mariah Edmondson, why are you still doing this? You say that you don't pick a side, and now you want to pick a side. Jehovah and Yahweh is not the Most High God of Israel. Really? They are other gods. There is a god named Yah, who is a moon god of Egypt, added to the Bible. I had a vision of it. See, now you're just picking and choosing. So if you don't like the Bible, then discard it. But you're wrong. That's what you're saying is just not true. Yahweh is not a moon god. Yahweh was the god of the Midianites, and the Midianites, the Israelis, the Hebrews, took that god on, and they took that same god to become the patron god of Israel. And so you're wrong. I mean, you're picking and choosing things, and it's a very common New Agey thing to do. You don't have any real understanding, or you're taking something that you read somewhere, somebody told you, and it's part of this sort of New Agey, non-defined, Christianity, New Agey stuff, and it's a bunch of it's a hodgepodge of nonsense. It's got no historical backing to it. There is a god named Yah, who is a moon god of Egypt, added to the Bible. Not true. That's just simply untrue. I mean, it sounds good, and somebody's out there saying it, and it sounds good, and it's a way for people to stay monotheist, Christian, and still play around with other religions. It's a way of sort of not committing to anything, which again is your issue. You don't want to commit. By your own admission, you don't want to pick a side. But that's absolutely not true. There's nothing accurate historically or otherwise in anything that you've said, or linguistically. Jehovah is the same as Yahweh. Alex Tremo del Norte. Jehovah is the English pronunciation of Yahweh. It's not a corruption. It's just the way that's pronounced. It is the same God. Jehovah was shown to me in a vision as a reptilian. So now the truth comes out. Mariah is a reptilian. And I got through saying that people who believe in reptilians tend to be people who have to literalize everything because they're emotionally not very evolved. So, I've said it before. Who cares what you saw in a vision? It doesn't mean anything. I just don't know why you keep coming back for more abuse from me. It's just, Alex says that Christianity has become a powerless minority. What world do you live in? It is absolutely not a powerless minority. Who do you think voted Trump into office? Who do you think is controlling the desire? Who do you think is working for big business and big government? It is Christians. If you think that Christianity has become a powerless minority, I invite you to travel anywhere in the southern United States and see how non-influential it is. If you don't think that Christianity isn't completely controlling the politics of the United States, then you and I have a lot of things that we disagree on. It's just gone underground. If there is such a thing as a reptilian race that's controlling the world, it's Christians. There isn't, but that would be a perfect analogy for what they are. They're shape-shifting, snake in the grass. I completely disagree with you. Yahweh is not Saturn, but I understand where you're coming from. Vikings TV question: what do you think of the academic comparison between Nordic gods and others? So Vikings TV, you're new to my channel. I have books. I talk about this. How I feel about it is absolutely the case. For instance, I'll just give you one example. The god Indra and the god Thor or linguistically the name is the same. You're like, what? How is that possible? I've said it before, I'll say it again. If you have read my books and if you have watched my channel, you already know this, but you don't, so I'm going to educate you. Indra is in thu ra, means full. Sorry, let's give that some space here. Full moon king. The operative word in there is thu. So it's been contracted into Indra, but it's originally in thu ra. Thor has been contracted from thu nar. Thu nar means moon and Lord. In thu ra is the king of the full moon. Thu nar is the Lord of the moon. It is the same deity, separated by tens of thousands of years, but the same language. And if somebody knows, and to my knowledge, I don't know that anybody else has come to that conclusion. Because I have knowledge in multiple areas. I have knowledge in the academic Western understanding. I have knowledge of language. And I also have knowledge, the only way I figured this out is because I learned from Vedic masters who understand seed sounds. And so seed sounds, Vedic seed sounds that are used in mantras are actually the building blocks of the Indo-European language. And so if you understand what the seed sounds are, you can take them and find those in all kinds of words. That's how I was able to bring Indra and Thunar together. Because if you have just academic learning, you won't see all of the package. If you just have training in esoteric mantra, you won't have all the package, because those guys, if you ask them, the Vedic masters, they'll say, oh, the seed sounds are just nonsense syllables. No, they're not. They're the seed sounds of the Indo-European language. And if you have understanding of Indo-European language and you put them together, you have a master key, which will open to you the truth behind these things. So that should answer your question. Alex, you're talking about heathens. Heathens, I'm going to use the word neo-heathens. These are people who have created a modern version of what they believe to be the indigenous religion of Europe, but unfortunately they have all kinds of emotional, political, and psychological agendas, and they don't have enough knowledge, and so they end up unconsciously projecting Christian dualism onto the heathens. They just replace, Jesus with, God the Father with Odin, and they replace Jesus with, Thor or whatever it is that they do. And that's why a lot of them are politically so right-wing, and why they're so exclusionist, and why some of them are racist. It's because they don't have any real knowledge behind what they're doing. A lot of them. Not all of them, because there's a whole spectrum of them, but a lot of them. There are heathens who think Christians have a right to their societies separate from heathens. I don't disagree with that. They have the right to do whatever the hell they want. Is anti-Christianity meant to be a dogma within heathenry? I'm not a heathen. Heathenry is a religion. I'm not a religionist. I'm not teaching any dogma. But I'm just telling you, it's, allowing Christians to have their own societies doesn't mean that you accept Christianity or that you accept the message of Jesus. Jesus is absolutely committed to the destruction of any religion, including any, pre-Christian religion. He's absolutely committed to it. You can't be a Christian without wanting to destroy every other religion in existence. By definition, Jesus himself said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Nobody comes to the Father but by me. That's his own words, according to the New Testament. He's saying you can't be any other religion. You have to believe in me to get to the one true God. He says it. It's as clear as day. There is no confusion there. That has nothing to do with allowing, Christians want to believe that. I'm not going to stop them. I'm not knocking on their door trying to talk them out of their religion. They're knocking on my door trying to talk me out of mine. No, letting them have their own religion has nothing to do with being anti-anything. But they are absolutely against your religion. Every time they knock on the door, hi, I'm from the church of so-and-so, and I want to share with you the love of Jesus. They have come with one purpose, which is to destroy any belief that you have that isn't theirs, and to forcibly convince you to accept their religion. That's the whole reason for them knocking on your door. So I don't know why this is a thing for you. They're the ones that are doing it. I don't want to talk about Trump. All right. Let's see what else. Alex says, question, what attitude do you think heathens should have towards... Again, I'm not a heathen. So I don't represent a religion. And I've already said that. What attitude should they have towards Christians, Christian relatives, is that treat them the way you want to be treated. Let them have their own religion. Leave them alone. You already know that that's what they believe, and you already don't believe it, so let them have it. If they want to know your religion, they'll come and ask you. If you don't want to tell them, say, I don't want to tell you. Treat them the way you want to be treated. Just leave them alone. Let them do their own thing. It's none of your business, and it's none of their business what you believe. Mariah! I have a feeling there's something wrong and off with the cube of Mecca and the black box tied onto Jewish men's foreheads. It's not the true pureness of the God of Israel. God of Israel doesn't exist, so who gives a crap about Mecca and a black box tied onto somebody's forehead? The pureness of the God of Israel. Vikings TV question, you said you are not a heathen. That's right. How do you describe yourself? Almost hate asking this. I know you don't need labels. So I use the word shaman. Shaman is even an incorrect term because the term shaman is a word used by Mongolians and Siberians, native Mongolians and Siberians in their religion and their language to say priest. But we use it because Tengarists, which are the people who believe in whose priests are called shamans, which can be both men and women. Tengarists are animists. Animists believe that that everything has a spirit and that we can communicate with everything, and they use drums to go into shamanic trance, to go to other realms of existence and bring back information from the gods and the spirits and all that kind of stuff. Our ancestors, according to Tacitus, were animists because according to Tacitus, the Germanic tribespeople did not have idols or temples and they worshipped the gods in nature, which means they were nature worshippers and animists, which means they were shamans. I am a shaman. And I am a syncretist. I am a Vedic practitioner. I also learned from Africans, and I have found stuff that, of course, I was also a Taoist, and I've found things in my ethnic heritage which are syncretist with all of them. So I'm a spiritual scientist, and I'm looking for the spiritual laws of animism that can be found in all indigenous religions that go back into prehistory, and I enjoy finding how they all are talking about a scientific energetic truth. If you can find a name for that in there, be my guest. Mariah Edmondson, I'm not picking you, however, which means she's going to pick on me. You are wearing the cube on your head by being connected to absolutely any part of the... What are you talking about? Oh, you're talking to Mariah. Sorry, I thought that was Mariah Edmondson talking to me. I'll let Rogue and Mariah talk it out. Normally, I won't let them do that, but I'm doing things differently today. Alex was under the wrong impression. I identified it. Yeah, I understand. I understand why you'd have that understanding. Alex is saying, do you consider yourself to be a seed man? All right, so that I think is a made-up term. I could be wrong. But there are two types of spiritual priests, practitioners in the original Germanic tradition, which was that there were, what I'm going to use the word wizard, and seed practitioners. Seed practitioners were usually women, and they would be possessed by the gods and would speak from the gods. They'd have visions, and the wizard, actually Galder and Seed are the two. So Galder and Seed. So Gald means chanting, which was usually done by the male priests, the wizards. Wizard, I like the word wizard because it means wisdom, means knowing. So the wizards knew. They had knowledge, they had wisdom, they used their intellect. Seed practitioners didn't. They were vessels, and they spoke, the gods spoke through them, and they had visions. So they didn't use wisdom because wisdom is the intellect to pick things apart. Whereas the seed shamans would just surrender and allow the gods to speak through them or to have visions. So those were usually women. But even if it was a man, he would be seen as being of feminine nature. The man, the Galder practitioner, which I forget the word they used to use, the wizard, the priest, he would interpret. So if a woman went into trance and the gods spoke through her, she wouldn't remember any of it. But the Galder, the wizard, would be listening, and then he would interpret. And I do this all the time with my seed practitioners. There's a lot of my apprentices who I would call seed practitioners or staff carriers. The vulva were staff carriers. They were seed practitioners. They come to me and they say, I had a vision of this and I had a dream about that and I don't know what it means. And I'd listen to them and I go, oh, I can tell you what that means. Because I'm the wizard side of it. So I'm not a seed man. But this is part of the misunderstanding, is that neo-heathens want to go into it and they want to practice seed because they know that's shamanism, and they don't understand that there's two sides of it. I can do that. I have done that, but I also am the kind of person that comes back from a vision with knowledge on what it means. I can read mythology and I know what the spiritual message is. I know what the symbolism means. A lot of people don't. So there you go. Mariah. And I guess I want to go back to Rogue. Rogue, I'm not here to badmouth Mariah, and I know you're wanting to support me by backing me up and but I am not attacking her. And she's directing these things at me. So let that be between me and her. I don't want this to be a thing where people who agree with me, gang up on somebody. She's honestly trying to figure things out. Because if she was just somebody that was attacking me, I would block her. Or if she was like, the purveyor of truth, or whatever the hell the guy's name was, who's just coming on and he's just pathetically spouting, nonsense, I would just sort of make fun of her and let her go. She's honestly trying to figure things out. And I don't want you to attack her just because you want to support me. I appreciate it, but that's not what I'm looking for. Okay, Mariah's just now spouting a bunch of opinions. I think she's responding to somebody who said she was drinking. Rogue 7-1 question: will the Uru's rune specifically help with dealing with unconscious agendas and overcoming unhealthy religious programming? Any of the runes will. If you feel connected to Urus, then use it. But any of them will. All right. So Mariah, whatever. Alex question: which Vedic path do you study? If I had to pick one, which I'm not, I'm a syncretist. I study all of them, and I use all of them that work for me and that I vibrate with. I would the Shaivite path. I'm not a like I don't relate to people who worship Krishna. The Vishnu path. I don't relate to that. I can understand it and appreciate it, but I don't relate to it. So I'm more of the tantric Shiva type. Let's see what else. Okay, that's it. No more questions. So now I definitely am out of here. So that's it. Lockdown.thunderwizard.com. Everybody go there. Save $3,214. Subscribe at thunderwizard.com at any level you want, and you'll get access to thousands of hours of in-depth teaching you won't get on this channel. Courses.thunderwizard.com. All of my books, everything about me there. Subscribe, hit the bell button, and give people links to this video and others. Let's get the message out. Let's make this let's make this the biggest channel for spiritual development on YouTube. That's my goal. Let's help me do that. All right, that's it for me, guys. Thanks for your time. I'll see you guys around.